Well, it's 12:45 here in Ventnor, New Jersey, and parts of Michigan. And this is well, I think news that you can use. No, it's not. This is
No,
CarEdge Unplugged. Oh my God, this is our. I get so confused, Phil. We're doing electric
well,
stuff
you
today,
do a
aren't we?
back-to-back show, right? I mean,
Um,
yeah.
3 days a week, yes. And so, yes, I get confused. Phil is sitting in for Justice this week. Justice it was really not in a position to be able to attend today's
Yep.
show, and I didn't want the show not to go on. And Phil graciously said, "Sure, I probably can come up with
Anytime.
enough nonsense to say over the next 30 minutes." So. Um,
We
and
could
my
talk.
son, I don't know if you saw the thumbnail for today, but it's like, I watched Zach and I said, Zach, really, just take it. No, and it's like, it's Tesla is not killing car dealers, even though dealers, your days are numbered, according to me. Well,
Uh,
that's according
yeah.
to that. And they're not, dealers aren't having a going out of business sale as it suggests in our thumbnail. But one of the things that is happening is that, especially in the state of California, and I'll share my screen for this. Um, so we have to go to share screen, and we
Hmm.
have to go entire screen, and we click on that, and we click on that, and then we're going to click on this. And Tesla and other EV makers, and we can really have a conversation about other EV makers, likely cost
But can
California
we? Because
dealers.
they really don't do a whole lot.
Well, well, that's the part of the conversation we can have. Um,
Correct.
okay, so Tesla and these other EV makers likely cost California dealers $910 million in profit during the year of 2022 in profit
Hmm.
opportunity. Um,
Yep.
which breaks down to about $700,000 in potential lost profit per dealership in California. Now, this is the part that I found most interesting. The three brands that they mention, EV makers Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid Motors, are encroaching on sales that for a century have been exclusive to
Hmm.
California's franchise dealers, and they accounted for 12% of the state's new vehicle market last year. Now, as traditional automakers trickle out their EV lineups, the impacts of the direct consumer rivals is beginning to show. So what they're suggesting is, here's the funny part. Tesla sold 188,000 vehicles in
Yeah.
California last year.
Yeah.
The other two, Rivian and Lucid, chipped in 5,700 registrations.
Yeah.
Now we know Lucid sold, I don't know, maybe 3,000 cars nationally last year.
Yeah.
So
Not a whole lot at
yeah,
all.
what do you
Right.
think their percentage was? Very, very, very little, and obviously, Rivian's is very little.
Yep. Yep.
And so what they're suggesting is that if we figure a gross profit of $4,700 per car, including front end profit and what's made on F&I, that those almost 193,000 or a little over 193,000 vehicles cost dealerships about $910 million in profit that they would have earned, supposedly.
Well,
Um,
yeah, potentially. Because let's talk about that, right?
yeah,
So your direct to consumer, Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, what I think like their average profit per vehicle is like $5,000 to $6,000,
well, here,
according to what they're indicating
let
on
me
here.
help you with one thing when it comes to Lucid. For every vehicle Lucid sold in the first quarter of this year, okay, they lost $555,000 per vehicle sold, based on the millions, the 700 some $1 million that they lost to sell 1,406 vehicles in the
Yeah.
first quarter. So
Yeah.
to even suggest that there's a gross profit built into these cars is okay. Yes, there is, I guess, from from what their alleged cost, but their costs are $555,000 more than what they're selling it for at this
Yeah.
point in time.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, there should be gross profit. There is none.
But
Um,
correct.
yeah,
Correct. And what the franchise dealers, they're indicating, well, we're only making a total of $4,000 per deal. That includes front and
back.
back end.
Yeah,
But this article is entertaining for couple parts.
yeah,
Obviously we talked about Lucid and Rivian being a very small part of this, but
yes.
dealerships are not going anywhere. And let's talk about how the other brands are ramping up very, very quickly, where franchise dealers are going to be selling a much more much more EVs, right? So that's going to
Yes,
impact what this is actually, talking about. Um, I mean, just since 2018, I think it's like the EV market has grown to like 0 to 6, between what 6 and 7% of
yes,
the market share, right?
yes.
Um, that's a lot. And California is one of the largest markets, right? So,
I think 36%
as
of the vehicles sold in California are
yep,
EVs.
yep. And these franchise dealers are going to have the opportunity in the very short term here to have a plethora of EVs to be able to compete with Tesla and to be able to sell to the market. I don't feel bad for these guys. I'm just saying it right now.
Oh, I don't feel bad for them either, and everything must go, and they're going out of business. That's a pipe dream that my son has, or that's something he could come up with on the spur of the moment because he only had a few minutes to create the thumbnail
Yeah.
for today's
Yep.
show.
Yep.
So I think that's what it is. But the reality of the situation is that we know with Ford, for instance. And I hate to, and I'm not trying to pick on Ford. I just know that
It's
for
okay. We always
every,
pick on Ford.
well, we do, but for every EV that Ford makes and sells, they lose about $60,000 per vehicle. Um, and everything we have heard from the dealer body is that there is very little or no margins built into those vehicles, that
Right.
the invoice cost for the dealer and the MSRP for the dealer are pretty damn close to the same. And in the future, if you're an e dealer for Ford, you won't be able to negotiate the price. The price will be what the price is, as
Right.
opposed to today, where they can add market adjustments. So, is it, especially in California? Even if there's more EVs from these legacy manufacturers, if there's no profit built into the vehicle, or
How
very
are they going to make that money?
okay, because
I
there isn't $4,000 worth of profit front and back
no.
built into these EVs from legacy manufacturers. So it doesn't compute to, well, it's the potential loss that they've seen.
So I'm I'm worried, in a sense that it's going to push the legacy dealers to push more of the back end product and maybe be a bit more unethical on how they promote and push those products.
Is that even
Because
possible to be a bit more unethical?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes dealers will surprise me. So, um, yeah, to me, I just feel like it's just going to have a greater push for those types of products,
Mhm.
probably on the front and on the back end of the deal. Um, and then I'm also thinking about, okay, well, how the dealer is going to be incentivized when they sell these vehicles? Is the OEM going to provide bonuses or other types of compensation back to the dealer? What about incentives from or tax incentives from the government for selling the vehicles?
It's a real interesting dilemma in the sense that if you, as a legacy manufacturer and as one of their franchise dealers, the expense that you have to incur to cater to the growing EV market of installing high quality chargers at your location, um, losing future service business because,
Hmm.
as we keep hearing, one of the wonderful things about EVs is they require a heck of a
Almost
lot
nothing.
less maintenance
Right.
than internal combustion engine vehicles.
Yes.
Um, what's the draw? I mean, maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I'm just short sighted. Maybe I am missing something. But
I don't think
I
you
don't
are.
really understand what the draw is because, as a franchise dealer, if your service business is going to go to hell and your front end and back end gross profits are going to go to hell, um,
Hmm.
what's
I
the
don't know.
point?
I, I, I mean, looking at it from a dealer point, I don't know why I would be so, motivated to want to sell them. I, I, I don't know. Again, unless the OEMs are looking to compensate the dealers on a bigger scale.
I'm reminded of when I had a Golf USA franchise in Arizona, and I sold Spalding golf equipment and Spalding golf balls. And my Spalding rep came in and he said, "We have these 15 ball packs. They cost wholesale to you $15.99.
Hmm.
Our marketing department has determined that they sell best at $14.99. Um,
Okay.
and so we want you to buy them at $15.99 and lose $1 for every box of balls that you sell." And it's like, well, why do I want to do that? Well,
Right.
because you can use those golf balls as a loss leader to bring people into your store. So is the concept that you can use EVs as a lost leader to bring people into your store? Well, at least at my golf store, I could sell them clubs, I could
Yeah,
sell them shoes, I could sell them gloves, I could sell them clothing. What the hell are you selling at a dealership that anybody's buying above and beyond the damn cars and the service for those cars? So
there's yeah, there's
I
absolutely nothing.
I don't get it, but that's just me. I'm sure there must be brighter people out there who have thought this through and figured it out and have said, yeah, even though the dealers are going to make less, they're still, through volume, they're going to end up making more money as we convert more and more people to
Hmm.
EVs. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Igor just made a comment, and he was indicating they're not going to compensate anything, meaning the OEMs,
yes,
um, and not uh, there's no profit. I mean, we know that. It's like, and well, currently there isn't any volume, but ideally there will be at some point. I mean, they're
yes.
really pushing it to be to get huge market share with the EVs, but I mean, just like you brought up, I'm like, I don't know why the dealerships would actually want to do this. It just it they the OEMs are not making it lucrative, but I guess going back to the title of the show today, Tesla is killing car dealer. Maybe the whole EV thing is going to kill the car dealer.
Um, I don't know. And you would think at a certain point it has to impact the number of franchise dealers there will be, and the need for the number of franchise dealers, simply because service revenue is going to drop dramatically moving forward, so that you're not going to need nearly as many dealers, and it'll just be attrition due to the
Mhm.
fact that a substantial number of dealers every year realize that there's no margin in it and no money in it for them anymore, and they willfully close their franchises down so that there'll be fewer and fewer legacy dealers that out
Mhm.
there to sell these new EVs. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I think I don't know that dealerships will disappear entirely,
Yeah, I don't think that
but I
either.
do believe the number of dealerships can shrink substantially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Um, I'm going to share my screen again because, well, I just want to prove that I still can. Um, and I wanted to talk about Polestar for a minute.
Yeah, good old
Um,
Polestar.
so Polestar Volvo delay launch of electric crossovers. The Polestar 3, uh, which was expected to begin uh, late this year, is now not expected to begin until Q2 of next year.
Mhm.
Because of platform development snafus. I like that. Has
Isn't that
also
great?
delayed Volvo's EX90 flagship.
Mhm.
So Polestar, which is entirely EV, and I, you and I could say it's the EV division of
Volvo.
Volvo,
Mhm.
but Volvo wouldn't want us to say that.
No, no.
It's an entirely different company altogether, but
Mhm.
they have their dealers are pretty much stuck at the moment, and Polestar as a brand is pretty much stuck at the moment because the delay in the ability to manufacture these vehicles um, means that sales volumes at the Polestar dealers will continue to drop for the remainder of
Yes.
this year because they got nothing but stale inventory.
They do, and they're even indicating because of the economic climate, that they're not gonna compensate for no Polestar 3, to increase volume with 2, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
now they're just kind of they're gonna bring that volume down to where it makes sense for them. Um, and it's hurting actually the company because I do believe they were talking about shrinking cost, significantly,
Yes, yes.
and reducing jobs,
Yeah,
because of it.
it is amazing to me the number of EV companies out there, whether they be startups or whether they be companies like Volvo who have come out with an electric division,
Mhm.
um, how quickly these new organizations look at the costs associated with it. And I mean, because Polestar said they're going to reduce their employee headcount by 10%, which is about 300 people. Um, and they're consistently and constantly looking for ways to reduce their overall costs for manufacturing. It is almost as if once they're in it for 3 or 4 years, they
Mhm.
realize just how difficult it becomes to make any money at
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, with the margin, I mean, with the cost to manufacture, I mean, I understand. They have to run as thin as they can.
yes. And just to add a little information to that, Um, I believe that, for instance, Lucid, I think they either lost $780 million in the first quarter or 708 million. And Rivian, um, they lost 1.35
Billion.
billion in the first
Yes.
quarter. So between just those two companies, okay, um, they lost in excess of $2 billion in the first quarter of this year. And both of those companies have been around for a little bit of time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, now, I have to believe that if you're an employee at either one of those companies, you probably have to feel as if you don't have any real job security
I
because
wouldn't feel that.
yeah, because you know that they have to be looking everywhere they can to mitigate those losses every month.
Yeah. Yeah,
and they're going to expect more efficiency from a smaller staff. They're going to run, as everybody likes to say, leaner and meaner,
yep,
um, which really means that if you still have a job, you're going to be expected to do the work of at least one and a half, if not two people, all by
correct,
yourself. Um,
correct.
now how long does that last before the remaining employees get what's that term, burnout?
Well, right. So it'll last until the company can turn it around and start making some money. And unfortunately, there are going to be folks that are going to get burned out, and they're going to have some turnover, and it and that stinks, right? Because nobody wants that.
No, and nobody wants to always feel as if their job is in jeopardy.
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
that is a miserable way to work, but it's also something that you probably understood when you accepted that job at a startup in the first place,
Correct.
and a startup that is burning through as much money as those startups are. Um,
Yeah.
Now I'm going to share my screen again,
Let's do it.
and I wanted to talk about Subaru this time,
Hmm.
because Subaru is at least a Japanese legacy manufacturer. Um,
They are. People love Subarus.
People
They're
are
very
very,
loyal.
very loyal to the brand. And I found this interesting. Subaru plans 4 crossover EVs and 400,000 output in a dramatic ramp up. So by the end of 2026, they hope to add the capacity of 400,000 full electric cars in Japan. And that is
That's
huge.
that is huge. That is a lot in a very short period of time.
Yes.
I can't tell you that I kind of have some thoughts of potential quality issues of trying to ramp up so quickly, but I know Subaru is a great brand. You know, they stick to a certain type of design, um, and it's what's the word that I'm looking for? It's very traditional, right?
Yes.
Subaru
Yes.
stays traditional. So, but
Yeah.
yes, very aggressive.
Yeah, so by they hope to be able to produce 400,000 electric vehicles by 2028. Um, and they expect to roll out 4 all electric crossovers by the end of 2026. Now,
Hmm.
right now they have one, and it is a joint venture with Subaru, and they're certainly not selling a lot of those.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a joint venture with Toyota, and they're certainly not selling a lot of those. But
Right.
this would indicate that and this plant where they're going to be doing it at, builds the Outback, builds the Crosstrek, the Forester. I mean, build
Hmm.
so you can see where it'll become, I guess, somewhat easier for them to switch over to the electric side of things. I'm not
It should
certain
be.
about it. They're also planning on increasing their plug-in hybrid technology.
Hmm.
Once again, based on a partnership with Toyota, so that they'll be using Toyota's hybrid systems. But
Hmm.
but this is a company that has bought in to, yeah, we're going to go to EV like everybody else, and we're going to do it relatively quickly, even though we're getting a late start on things.
Right. Right. And they're saying what, they want 40% of its sales to be EVs and hybrids by 2030.
Yeah, you
That's
know, I'm I,
40%.
I'm 5'6", and I'm saying I like to be 5'7" by 2030.
Right. It ain't gonna happen.
Bingo. Okay, and so I have my suspicions as to whether or not they're going to be able to hit their 40% goal by 2030. Um,
Right.
if every manufacturer hits the goals that they have set for themselves, um, it would be absolutely amazing. And that all these numbers pretty much are pie in the sky numbers. And
Of
I
course.
want to share one more thing with you when we really talk about pie in the sky numbers. So I got to do the share my screen nonsense again.
Let's do it.
Okay. This is experts. Massive changes emerge in global supply chain as EV output rises. Battery supply chains and pricing will continue adjusting as demand for EVs increases over the next over the next decade, analysts say. I don't think it needs an analyst to say that.
Nope.
But here's the thing that I find amazing. Graham Evans from S&P Global Mobility says that they expect production globally could increase to about 44 million battery electric vehicles by 2030. That's up from 8.8 million in 2022. That seems
staggering. That's a lot,
isn't it?
I mean, that's a lofty claim.
That's like four and a half times greater than where we're at now.
Yeah. It's a 45% increase.
Yeah,
it's like
they expect
from
the
less than
market
10% because we're at 6 right now. It's like,
yeah, they expect the market share to go up to 45%.
I mean, the one good thing, Ray, potentially out of this is that
yes,
the batteries are going to be cheaper to manufacture based on the volume, right?
yes.
So, and that's going to hopefully in turn come back. Now, whether or not that's going to be shown to the consumer or if that's going to be shown as additional profit to the OEM because they're buying the battery for cheaper, that is what I want to know.
Well, if this is just me speaking, if, for instance, Ford loses $60,000 for every EV they sell, whatever savings there are moving forward ain't going to the consumer.
Okay. Right.
Okay. It's not going to consumer. It's going directly to Ford or the other manufacturers so that ultimately they can actually start to show some. I mean, because Ford has said that they anticipate their electric vehicle division to be able to produce 8% net profit. Okay, in the future. And we're not talking too far into the future where they expect, okay, well, right now it's nowhere near even break even.
No.
Let alone any type
so
of
that's
profits.
Pretty lofty too. So how are they? Yeah, I'd like to know how they're getting to 8%.
Well, but it would indicate that whatever savings they find, whether it be through, whether it be through cutting staff, finding cheaper batteries, whatever it is, cheaper materials, it ain't never making it into the customer's pocket. It is strictly going into Ford's pocket and the other legacy manufacturers' pockets, because the whole idea behind doing this is to figure out how they're going to make money. If there should not be any expectation moving forward that we're really going to be able to see the price of EVs actually really coming down any great degree. I just don't see how it can.
I don't see how it can either. And why would they do it? I mean, it goes back to, well, if you have a consumer base that's purchasing a product and will purchase it at volume at a certain point, where is the motivation for the manufacturer to want to reduce that price point?
Exactly. And I think the manufacturers have already shown a propensity for leaving out a large segment of potential buyers by continuing to produce the higher profit margin, higher trim level, most expensive vehicles they have
everything we see on the lots now, most of which are all high trim, high margin vehicles.
Yes. So there, in my mind, there is nothing that suggests to me that it's going to be any different on the EV side of things.
Right.
It's they're going to be playing to a smaller market that is in a better position to be able to afford these higher priced vehicles. That's the future. The
It
future
is.
is, and the future has begun now. The
It
future
has.
is that average people, and when and so let me, in my mind, define average
Hmm.
people who find themselves in a position not to be able to afford a vehicle above $40,000, that people would prefer to be in a price point of $25,000 to no more than $40,000.
Yeah.
And the future portends that there ain't going to be cars for those people, at least not new ones,
No.
because electric vehicles aren't going to come down in price to ever get into those. So they've all decided that the sandbox they're playing in is for people who can afford 40 plus $1,000 vehicles. And that's a smaller percentage of people than the vast majority of
True.
people. So
That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
I think the future is now. And people,
It is here.
yes, and people
And
just have to get used to the fact that pre-owned cars are going to have to make more sense.
well, they do. And, we have people coming to us, all the time asking, hey, when is it going to be normal again? And unfortunately, I have to come back and say, this is
Yes.
the new normal.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Phil, believe it or not, we crushed
We
over
did.
30 minutes. We
We
did.
did.
And I'm not going to tell you I'm getting hungry because I've got another 15 minutes before I get hungry. But but I think we did justice to justice
We
by
did.
by covering the show for him
We
today
did.
and covering the topics that we did. I want to thank you again for being here to fill in.
Absolutely.
It's
Anytime.
always, yeah, it's always a pleasure to see you and always a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have these conversations with you. And
Love them.
for those of you who are wondering when we'll be back on the electric channel, I believe it's Tuesday that we'll be back at 12:45 Eastern time, 12:45 p.m. Uh,
Hmm.
and 9:45 a.m. Pacific time.
That's
Phil,
it.
thanks again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you,
Everybody
Ray.
out there, thanks for watching. We appreciate you spending part of your day with us.